Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very
go.
much for joining us. Salt of the Streets. This is part 4. They tell us they could hear us in the chat too. So, Matt, thank you again for joining us. Obviously, there's some audio things that went on there, but it is what it is. We're back for our part 4 of the grab bag. I am Donovan.
I am Colin.
And this is Jake over here. We are joined by, I want to thank you again, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the videos that we have here. You can find all of our videos on our YouTube. We also have our Instagram, our Facebook, our Patreon, our everything at Salt of the Streets. Go there, get signed up, help us make more better content. We have the newsletters, the book club, everything that's going on, the beer shows, and of course Swell Blended if you need a haircut. And you can also find all of our personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is at Big Bird Offie on both of those things. You can find all that on saltofthestreets.com.
Money. I even hit the right button to go back. Look at
go.
that. So grab bag time. We're going to reach into the grab bag and we're just going to talk about, we haven't had a good old fashioned grab bag in a hot minute.
Colin's going to lead us through the grab bag.
That's right. So the first topic.
Can you move that a little bit so we can see the chat?
Yes. The first topic I wanted to bring up. We got all sorts.
We got
of shit.
all manner of shit. Yeah.
So we had kind of mentioned it lightly in the beginning of the show, but Nancy Pelosi's husband just bought $5 million worth of stock in the technology company, the processor and semiconductor company NVIDIA, which I'm a huge fan of because they make wonderful GPU processors and video cards. And any gamers will be very familiar with NVIDIA. They have a very, very superior product.
This is an American company,
It is indeed.
I'm rocking that GeForce RTX 370i right now.
Boom! That's the money stuff right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this opened. There's Actually, I think I might have it opened over there. That's right. So the big point about this is we've talked about Nancy Pelosi's husband kind of being notorious for making pretty solid stock purchases right before companies do really, really good. And so much so that there has been an online following that has essentially just tracked his purchases and basically followed his stock trading. And, he doesn't win all of them. We'll put it that way. But you could do pretty well. You win a lot. And the special thing about this one, it was so blatantly obvious that right before the House was to approve a bill to send a ton of money over to, let me see if I have it pulled up. We'll just hit go. Shit ton of money to a bunch of American technology companies to help boost something we've talked about before. It's kind of helped boost domestic semiconductor.
Yeah, a couple billion they pumped into it, right?
Yes.
52 billion, yeah.
Yeah, so this is just it's a New York Post article I pulled up here. So Nancy Pelosi's husband purchased up to $5 million in stocks options on a computer chip company ahead of a vote on legislation next week that would deliver billions of dollars in subsidies to boost the chip manufacturing industry in new financial disclosures that they just recently put out. So Paul Pelosi, who is currently, I believe, being indicted or investigated for a DUI charge in California, which was a fun thing I think we brought up at some point.
Yeah.
So he made the purchase June 17th. Shares of NVIDIA, the top semiconductor company, worth between $1 million and $5 million. The Daily Caller reported, citing disclosure reports filed by the House Speaker. So Nancy Pelosi actually filed that with the House, which I think is laughable because just because you file it, is that okay?
Right.
Is that what we're talking about here?
It's totally on the up and up.
Yeah. Senators are expecting to convene as early as Tuesday to vote on the bipartisan competition bill to set aside $52 billion to boost domestic semiconductor manufacturing and give tax credits for production, Reuters reported. Reuters. Thank you.
Reuters.
I'm pulling a Ross right now.
Reute. Yeah.
Reuters.
I wasn't sure until I heard someone else say it the way it was supposed to be pronounced. I had the app and everything for months. And I was like, I don't even know who the fuck this is.
So that's the story. And I wanted to just kind of open it up to the room. Let's talk about this idea of family members of elected officials who have direct control over where our tax dollars go.
New Relic knows.
Oh, God.
NewRelic.com/New Relic knows.
We're balling.
What
is it the code?
Mute the site.
Bastards.
Oh, it was muted. We're just going to close that out now.
is.
That's the thing with you get all them tabs open, dude.
Christ.
Every now and again, something blows up like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, let's talk about that. The validity of these family members doing trades like this. We get all offended when, rightly so, when Joe Biden's son goes and gets a hold of a massive share of Chinese financial holding companies that later on buy American oil from his dad, and we get upset about that. Why are people? Why are other fellow legislators not so upset about spouses and families of other acting legislators who control the purse strings of our own tax dollars getting rich off of knowledge of where they're sending our own tax dollars? Jake, how do you feel about this situation?
I think it's perfectly acceptable in no world. Yeah, no, I think there's an inherent infringement of we are giving these people access and power of the masses, and they're inherently abusing it in order to just benefit themselves. That's frustrating to say the least. I how this doesn't become, and I think that's white collar crime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, cool. How this isn't white collar crime. I don't know.
You're going to throw Martha Stewart in a fucking ankle brace and keep her on lockdown for insider trading, yet your husband is doing it knowing full well what you're about to do tomorrow.
There doesn't seem to be any way to safely assume that the people making these purchases don't have any knowledge at all that would impact their trading, or else he wouldn't be buying these things that are so closely aligned with governmental action and so quickly make him so much money.
Yes.
There's, like you said, when you compare the Pelosi trades to the S&P 500, they're beating the best people in the country.
That's right.
The people whose job it is to be an investor.
Yeah.
So if it's your entire job, you'd think, especially in, the capitalistic pig fucking nation that we supposedly live in, those people would be the best and most ruthless traders that there are.
Yeah.
But somehow, Nancy Pelosi's husband, what the fuck does he do? What is his... Does he do anything?
I would imagine at this point he's just a stock trader.
Okay,
Shit,
so
he could make some money.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what his trade is, right? But
He's got to be a hedge fund guy.
whatever it is, yeah, I wouldn't assume that it's being a stock trader.
Yeah.
No,
because that would raise, I think, one too many flags at that
Right.
point. But
I guess I'm really interested too how. I mean, we see this in the private sector. I work for a company, massive company. Not gonna say here, 'cause who knows what they'll do? I might get canceled. We talked about that later.
we don't need to do that.
no, don't worry about that.
Massive company. You made me put on a piece of paper the top 10 engineering companies in the world. I'll point at it for you. On there. And then the company I'm subcontracted to is on the top 2 semiconductor producers in the world.
Dog.
And so I have to sign. I'm liable. I have to sign when I work that I'm not going to commit insider trading. That there's actually programs for me to benefit from the work that I am doing, but it is at least a comparable rate to where I have certain options of my retirement or where I devote money so that I can purchase certain stocks, but it is limited and there's so much scrutiny involved with it from a lawful standpoint that it actually makes sense. So I can legally benefit while also not to an extent I think putting myself a competitive edge that someone else doesn't have.
Yeah.
Right, and I think it seems, I obviously don't know the original origins of this practice, but it seems like it was a way not only to allow people to profit off of the work that their company is seeing, because obviously the work that you're doing as an engineer is benefiting your business. It's allowing them to continue to make that profit, but also probably on a smaller scale to disincentivize you from insider trading off that knowledge of listen, don't try and do it illegally. We'll give you a cut of it no matter what. And so you're still seeing the profits. Yeah, it seems like it's probably a multi-tiered approach to why that's being done that way, which seems pretty intelligent.
Yes. And now let's bring in a twist, though, because we are indeed a liberty-based show.
Yes.
You got to ask yourself the question now. Just because, say, you run for Congress and you win because you're awesome, does that mean Jordan can't participate in the stock market? Because you help control the strings of the purse string. Where does that liberty get cut off just due to the nature of somebody's choice in public service? That's where it gets murky for me.
Yeah.
I instinctually, I have the same reaction everybody else does. Man, that's fucking dirty, man. And obviously there's abuse of it. We
Right.
could see it run rampant throughout Congress. But at what point do we decide that these people, how many generations do you go down, lose their right to participate in the stock market while this person holds office?
Right.
I mean, is that something that maybe you can all contractually agree to when somebody takes an oath of office, that the rest of the family has to in some fashion give up a portion of their, their free trading rights to do that?
Because you could theoretically, if you wanted to bad enough, you could go to like your third cousin, as far removed as you could.
Yeah,
To
at a
try and
family
make
barbecue.
Yeah. So even to defeat whatever the laws that have been proposed of like no direct family members or even cousins. Like if you really wanted to, you could just find someone who's just barely related to you, or no one at all.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's off the top. I think that's the problem with being in a position of power. There's an inherent power over somebody else that is, we don't have any way to prove that isn't influenced by the governmental workings, or that isn't influencing other people's ability to free trade, because your purchasing of that commodity based off that knowledge could influence other people's free trade, who don't have that knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that would be like a base concern, especially when you're buying however many millions of dollars he's buying, that shifts the value of a certain stock when you purchase it because of the amount that you're purchasing, which could, and this is part of the problem, incentivize or disincentivize someone to buy that stock.
Yeah. Or even if somebody has a career in, say, stock trading as it is already, you know what I mean? Because initially I started to think about this and I say, okay, well, what if when you become a public official like that, a representative of the people, like you are essentially sworn to secrecy on what it is that you're doing within the halls of Congress.
Sign like a super NDA or some shit.
Type of thing like that. But that's unrealistic. I mean, let's be real about that. I mean, there might be some kind of path that could be pursued, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it drives that hard thing of the burden proof then shifts to whoever's going to prosecute, and can't necessarily prove, like,
it's hard to
again,
prove intent.
like we look at was it correlation doesn't mean causation,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but it gets really dicey when correlation is that your husband. My wife knows everything about these two companies that I work for.
Right.
And I talk to her. I'm like, if we do this equals more money. Or if we do this is going to tank certain things. And it's like, okay, well, if anybody overheard me, they would immediately have a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, like, is having a competitive advantage inherently wrong? And then, like, well, the nature of that competitive advantage, I think, is what we're probably talking about. But
the nature of how you get that competitive advantage matters.
Right.
How you come to that seriously matters.
Because, and that's interesting. At what level does it not become wrong, right? Like Jake said, if his wife doesn't invest, but if she maybe tells one of her friends, like, hey, this is going to happen, so do this, like, that's also still fucked up because she didn't rightfully come by that knowledge, but also she didn't. Technically not, because maybe she doesn't know how Jake's wife got this knowledge. If she doesn't know that she got it through nefarious means, is she really in the wrong for making a purchase? As far as she's concerned, it's just a fucking stock tip from Jake's wife.
Yep.
Which is that's a mad interesting question.
See, it seemed like a really fun little shit on people, but there's deeper issues.
Nancy Pelosi, so it's easy to be
It
like,
is.
yeah, really a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Lawyers in here to dice that up. I mean, maybe we don't. We maybe be here longer than the podcast would go. But like, it'd be interesting of how that's navigated in court, and then these different, like, what these laws and what they're including and the hierarchy of these laws. Because I would assume, and I'm not an expert in this.
None of us are.
But the nature of their power, right? The nature of their power, I think, is because if we weren't talking about any of these other things, like even somebody in my position, but I have that competitive advantage because of my position.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Now, it's much lesser to the governor or someone else who can make policies to really change those things, but I'm also inherent in these things. I have much more, the insides and outs of these than in you guys in your position. So even in the smaller degree of power difference and position difference between you and me, it's illegal for me to tell you guys what the next move of X company is.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that totally makes sense. But it levels that level of, or it enters the level of murkiness when you start looking at individuals' liberties in the country, and it makes me second guess my initial opinions. And, it's so easy, especially these days, to just start shitting on these people. But when you take a step back and you try to assess the liberty side of it, it's at some point you're going to have to cut somebody's liberty off.
And it seems like, from a civilian perspective, you almost be like, well, isn't it just easier to just not do it because it's safer to, just cut yourself off so no one can assume it? But in that same angle of like, how much shit am I going to do because I don't want anyone to assume that I'm doing something nefarious?
Yeah.
How much shit am I going to do based off of other people's potential perception of what my actions are?
Yeah.
Am I going to deprive myself of fucking millions of dollars? No, that's fucking stupid, right? So that's very interesting. That's very interesting.
Well, I mean, it could come back. I mean, we had this the whole previous conversation, but if one of our constitutional incentives as rights is the pursuit of happiness, you could make a serious argument going all the way from a constitutional perspective of like, no, like this is going against my pursuit of happiness. Like, why wouldn't I want to make more money to benefit my family, benefit me, like da 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 da.
And I'm sure you could make an argument that's like, well, if you paid close enough attention to every bit of possible information that is available to the public, and you really dove into these bills, and you saw that this bill was about to happen, and you look at the makeup of Congress, and you see that you could make the same trades, but come at it through a completely legal means.
Right. But is that realistic?
No, it's definitely not. But it's possible.
And I think the only real, and I know real is questionable now, of like justification as to why they shouldn't be allowed to profit is like, well, if you look at the history of that position, the intent was for you not to profit off of your position at all. The very first congressmen and people like that, they were paid for the position. So let's take the White House, right? The executive branch. John Adams is taking out loans when he's the vice president to George Washington because he doesn't fucking make any money at all. He's making just a pittance of a salary, not no money, obviously, a pittance of a salary compared to the lifestyle that he exists in. So he's having to take loans out just to pay his bills and keep his properties and shit. Woo. That compared to what we're seeing and discussing now is completely separate
That's a world apart
from the root of it, Yeah, so I don't know what the pay was of the original, congressmen and senators, but I guarantee it's nothing compared to what they're making now. And so I would love to see the legal debate on what that pay should be, because that same argument could be used to be like, no, y'all motherfuckers should be making the bare minimum of what everybody in the country makes. You should make federal minimum wage, and that is all only based off of the hours that you are in the Capitol.
Right.
I can see that being a legal argument to be made, like I said, based off of John Adams made, I don't know, $1,000 a year or whatever it was. I don't remember the exact figure, but
that would be interesting. Like, you guys aren't salary anymore; you're hourly. You only get paid when you're doing your job at the Capitol. Man, there would be no
piss ass rate. Too.
Yeah, there would be no fucking proxy votes. I mean, the MTG would get what she wants. Every motherfucker would be in the house every day.
No overtime either.
No overtime.
No overtime. Only base pay. No time and a half, bitch. You ain't making $10.50. Get out of here. We're not doing it.
I think that is interesting though, because I honestly, I think, just general opinion, I don't know a lot of people that I feel like we actually have to incentivize politicians now. Not in this, in the sense of like, I don't know a kid that I'm encouraging to become a politician anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? So maybe I'm playing devil's advocate, but I'd also be interested too of like, okay, what if we paid them, let's say base pay was same as like NFL or something, which is like $375 UDFA, or veteran rate, say it's $1 million.
Right.
How much? I wonder what the opposite argument, like, well, okay, what if we paid them to a position that they really have no excuse for this other junk they're doing on the side?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You'd make the argument now that they already make that certain amount. It's over $100,000 the base pay for representative.
Yeah.
And you can, comparatively to the cost of living in DC, they're like, it's really not that much because of whatever. It's like, well, but this only costs this much because you live here and conduct this business.
Yeah.
So, I would be interested what that dollar amount would be. Because some people who make $20,000 a year would say they already make that right now. You know, and I make more than $20,000 a year. Not crazy amount, but enough to realize that $150,000 a year is not that much. It's a lot of money, but it's not comparatively. It's not that much money.
Yeah.
You know,
If you have to live in
spend
DC,
that-
generational wealth.
No, and you could easily spend that in 1 year without like. Very easily. You know, if you make that every year, you could easily not save any money at all, making $150,000 a year with no fucking problem.
Yeah.
You know, we live in America. It would be very easy to do. So, but I don't know. That doesn't. I guess that doesn't really matter. But it's interesting to consider. What
the incentives could be.
Yeah.
I think, like, I come at this from like a military aspect too. When you're a federal employee like that, that has to be, you know, you by nature of being like a federal representative have to travel from your home state to go do your new job. That's the way that works. It's the way it's supposed to work anyways, is for you to travel to Washington, D.C., to sit in the House of Congress, to do your job, to be in your office, to do your deal. So I've always kind of had this in the back of my mind of like, well, if this is their job, why are they not required to stay in government quarters that are provided, like a representative barracks room? You know what I mean? Everybody, you know, you build a fucking.
Some people sleep in their office. There are people who have beds in their office so they can just sleep in the Capitol as opposed to renting an apartment or owning a condo or a house in D.C. That is a thing. There was a movie, a documentary, maybe like 2 years ago. I don't remember what it was called, but it was starring Justin Amash and Matt Gaetz. And it was essentially about like how their effort to be government representatives and not take corporate money. And so it followed Matt Gaetz, like all these fucking dinners and shit and lunches that he had to go to just to get just enough money from private investors at $1,500 a pop or whatever to keep his job and fundraise and do that because he had no PAC donations at all. And in that, it highlights the different ways that different federal representatives live, and some of them had beds in their fucking offices. They had cots and shit that are just set up in their office in the Capitol. So like, I don't want to pay rent. Some people share apartments. You know, there are multiple representatives that will just be roommates with each other while they stay in the Capitol. It's interesting to see the way that's done. There are also people who own fucking 7 houses, and they have one in the Capitol and one in New York and one in California. And you have to wonder where that disparity comes from, because you don't get that wealthy just making $150,000 a year or whatever your base pay is.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, because whenever Congress is in session, when they're in session, they're not always in session. Right. And at that point, they're at their home office doing whatever it is that the representatives are supposed to do, talking to their constituents and so on and so forth. And, you know, out there hitting the stump and campaigning and, you know, trying to essentially what equates to just constantly raising money for the party. But yeah, I would be really interested to have Congress talk about that amongst themselves in a public setting, and you know, try to address some of the, you know, the blatant corruption that happens within there just due to the nature of their own jobs. And I guarantee you a bunch of the junior senators have a fuck ton to say to a lot of the senior people that have been in government for 30 years, that are living in multi-million-dollar mansions 90% of the year and only going back home when they absolutely need to go stump and hit the, you know, be out in the public in their own districts and shit like that. I would have a feeling like those people like Matt Gaetz and all that, I bet you they have an axe to grind with some of those folks.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they would not, you know, Thomas Massey, that dude wants to spend as much time on his farm as possible.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want to be there unless he absolutely has to. A lot of those people want to be there. They want to collect all that money. They want to do that shit. And if we could have like a Jan 6 commission level, you know, representative housing commission. Let's make that on primetime news and see what the public has to react to about that. That would be nice.
Yeah. No, it's hard because I think there's an absolute warranted skepticism. Oh goodness, guys, lay it out for me.
Skepticism.
Thank you.
Yep.
By the people, of just a one. I think it just ultimately comes from mistrust, but I think this actual perception that we're finding down both aisles of this mistrust of our leaders and representatives is because the nature of why they're there. We can see that it's changing because the only way we can any evidence of what someone believes is ultimately, I think, exacted by how they act, right? So like, whereas don't hear me saying Trump's a saint at all, but you can see the tactic Trump tried to accomplish by just waiving his pay that he would receive as president.
Oh yeah,
right.
That won a lot of
He's
people.
Trying to present this view, and like, I would vote for Trump, but not on any character basis.
Right.
But you can see what he was trying to accomplish there. I'm here to, wave a
I'm here for you, not for
and
this.
an Oompa Loompa face to defend you against them because I'm battling cronyism or whatever. And that's the big champion, whatever. You can see why that was actually effective with a lot of conservatives in certain groups. But I mean, it doesn't take long to pierce through what he was doing and being like, okay, dude, like you're playing the same ball game. You're just doing it a little differently.
Yeah. His level of skeevy deals and his own level of corruption within like the New York real estate game has been there for everybody to see for a long time.
Right.
Trump
University, Trump stakes, all this shit.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you're still like a millionaire, a multimillionaire who lives a life completely out of touch with the everyday American who supports you really hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
the natural question, okay, you're draining the swamp, but where's the swamp going?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Where's the runoff to?
Because that where that lands matters.
Oh yeah.
And what fills it matters even more. Anyways, well, I gotta bounce off 7. I got dad duty, but dudes, thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was good to have you. So
we will. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank
Bye.
you, brother.
We switch back over. We're switched back over.
Right, we're here. We're back. We're live. That was Jake Lines.
Jig lines. And now I have access back to my browser and things. I didn't think that one through when all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, where do I put all my how do I bring stuff up?
That was a conversation and a half.
Indeed.
So Joseph Garrett, we were not ignoring you guys. That was obviously a very intense conversation that we were having. So we're parsing through that. I appreciate you for sticking around. I appreciate you for staying here. Joseph Garrett, you are a champion, sir.
That's right.
So what a time to be alive.
Indeed. Although I don't even know if I am alive right now.
Yes.
But
yes.
It's interesting because I keep coming back to that original conversation between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson all those years ago. I've never felt like I would be ensconced in one of those conversations myself, and that's where we were today. I feel.
Yeah, it was fucking wild.
Yeah, I hope that. I hope he just builds off of that and we can have more discussions.
I'm interested
in
to
the
hear
future.
what you guys have to say about that discussion.
Indeed.
What you took away from it.
So the next grab
move on to
baggy
the next
item
story.
I wanted to bring up. First, let's break it up with a fun one. We saw Ilhan Omar and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez be quote-unquote arrested after protesting in front of the Supreme Court building this week. And the big news right off the bat was they were being escorted away politely by police officers with their hands behind their back in a completely unnatural fashion. And at one point, cameras are on, and so it's circulated around social media. At one point, AOC and Ilhan Omar both go up for a power salute, a red salute or whatever at one point, and then kind of go back.
Salute.
And
yes. And
then that immediately got spread around the internet, and people were instantly jumping on top of this. Look at these people being falsely, they're out there trying to play this game. We had visions once again of AOC crying down at the border at an empty parking lot. And
so they were arrested. Right?
They were technically arrested. Never actually handcuffed.
More detained than arrested, but they were properly arrested. Never handcuffed. But they did feign as though handcuffs.
Yes.
And originally it was reported they weren't even being arrested. They were just being detained. And then even at that point, it was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. What do you call that? You were picked up and escorted off of the road because they were blocking a road out in front of the Supreme Court building, which again, I think is hilarious because they're out there protesting the Dobbs decision on abortion, when the Supreme Court isn't even in session. And as legislators, you understand that it's your job to legislate this now because the Supreme Court said it's your job to do that. It's up to the state representatives and so on and so forth. So it's up to the people's house to do their job now. But apparently they would rather stage a protest out front and then faux get arrested. And one of the surprising aspects, there's a couple of them here, but it's not surprising that they did this because especially AOC has a history of doing this, and it's no surprise to anybody. But the biggest surprise was the ABC wrote a story about it and then published a picture on with them looking like they were being carted off in handcuffs and never addressed the fact that they weren't. And immediately, I mean, this is well past it circulated through social media. So one has to ask the question, why did they do that? They knew for a fact that it was on social media.
Right.
They had to, because the minute I saw it like minutes after it happened. Why is the corporate press defending these people like this? I think the answer is pretty clear. It's because they have an agenda as well. But there's no recourse to it. Corporate press gets to print whatever they want, and they don't have to try to justify it. They can put a picture out there and say, well, we never said she was in handcuffs. We just put the picture there. And it was just a picture of it. So you fucking assholes, quit lying to me about this crap, man. I'm telling you, if you believe, I struggle with this. I feel bad for people who believe anything the corporate press puts out nowadays.
Right.
But again, I also don't feel bad. I don't feel bad about it because they're trash. If you believe the corporate press, and that's just you're too lazy to do any due diligence yourself, I also don't feel bad about that. It scares me that those people have power.
It's concerning.
It's very concerning.
Yeah. And we've talked about that in many different aspects. It's concerning to see people know that they are not receiving the full truth and still choose to not try and find what the truth might be.
Yeah.
Or anything or even pursue anything that might challenge what their assumptions are about a given thing, and that's in the roots of this show. That's like how it was. We're going to read something, we're going to find something else that counters it, and we're going to figure out what the truth is because whatever they both say, that's what the truth is,
Yep.
There isn't any reason to not do that when it's easier than ever to see and know the bias of given news agencies. Even if you don't know them yourself, shit like ground news exists where you can pay a nominal fee for them to tell you what the bias of this news agency is and then give you access to another article that will help you contextualize what the truth is.
Yeah, it's pretty sad, the state of affairs these days, man. It's worrisome. And, kind of towards the piece you released earlier today, actually, about the review preview, write-up that you did, it just adds fire to that building animosity in everybody that's just tearing everybody apart. Zeke says, I have an off-topic question, but I am curious how you guys feel about it. Shoot it, Zeke. Shoot it out. Let the doggy out. And then something we'll see what Zeke has to say. But I think before we leave, I want to talk about Joe Biden accidentally saying he has cancer along with millions of other people, and then the next day coming out that he had COVID. And then I want to talk a little bit about, building off of that, like the nature of COVID, and I think how at this point the media is actually asking very interesting questions to the press secretary and Joe Biden's doctor now. So let's see. Zeke, how do you guys feel about foreign investors buying land and properties in the U.S.? It's an interesting deal.
Off bat, I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't love it. And I understand, to put it in context, there's a lot of multinational companies that are free to buy real estate in the United States. They're free to buy businesses in the United States. There are a multiplicity of medium to small time banks that are bought up by Chinese firms. And that has been happening now for decades. I remember growing up, my parents used to bank at a specific bank. And then one day, it was back in, the 90s and shit. So like when people went to go pay their mortgage, they generally drove to the bank and then did the little vacuum tube to deposit the check and shit like that, right?
What a fucking time.
And I remember one time we didn't go to the usual place because my mom would do it like when she grabbed us to go buy groceries and shit like that, do it on the way or whatever. And then she said, oh, yeah, we changed banks. I was like, well, why? He's like, then my dad, well, Chinese bought the bank. Like, I'm not doing that. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Okay.
I didn't understand the context of it until nowadays. But
that's mad interesting.
It is very interesting because, I don't know, should there be some kind of...
Zeke says Chinese investors have dropped $6.1 billion alone in acquiring property in the United States.
And from my understanding, a lot of it is like farmland.
Okay, so this is my immediate concern, and maybe this is unfounded, but it's off the cuff. Zeke understands. I love it. I love the whole thing. There's no animosity. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
It was insanity, that conversation. My immediate concern, like I said, I don't know whether or not this is valid, is if you have people there and we start... What if people start getting American rights when they're not from here because they live in a certain place? I own this land. All these things. I don't know how simple that is. You got to be born here to become a citizen, but I don't know. You have land and shit.
Yeah. What are the rights of like a green card holder?
Right. I don't know how well that translates. But it's
an interesting concept.
On a second level, concern for the Civil War, we need that fucking land. We don't need to be selling it to other people because we're going to have to redistribute it to the different nations that are going to make up the United States when this is done.
Yeah.
But
I mean, what is the should there be some kind of like you have to be an American citizen to, or at least a green card holder to purchase land or real estate in the United States?
They'll be paying American taxes, right?
Yeah.
So
like they'd still be beholden to it.
What influence do they get for paying those taxes?
Yeah.
Is it nothing? Is it only the money? Or are there things that even if they're not written into the law, is there some legal implications that you can make because you pay taxes here to get more rights than we assume that they're going to have by owning this property? So they were allowed to buy property right next to the U.S. military base. And I was like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, yeah, because if there's no laws that say, foreign nationals can't buy land, then technically, you can buy any land anywhere, essentially, as long as you can afford it and it's for sale.
Even if
you offer somebody enough.
Military base.
Yeah.
That's some fucking...
nationalistic as it might sound, it seems counterintuitive to allow foreign nationals to purchase stakes in your economy like that.
How about this? We shouldn't be selling American property to anybody who we know has active spies in the nation. If we know you have at least one spy here, you can't buy property here. And if you ask us why, we'll tell you. Because you're sus as fuck, and we know that you have someone running around in here, and we're not fucking playing that shit. Yeah, no, it's not... That's not good. That's if the justification for everything we do is national security. Why the fuck are we selling things to China when we're like, the Chinese are going to ruin America? Why are we letting them buy shit here then?
If I can't bring a tube of toothpaste on an airplane that's bigger than this.
Because they don't care. They want the money.
Then I don't want a Chinese national being able to buy a bank. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, I'm not into that concept.
That's no good. I don't know why, Zeke, but I don't feel good about it. I can't tell you why, but I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh, that's good. And in the realm of human liberty, you're not American, bro. That's all I'm saying.
Chinese are definitely trying to fuck you. That's for sure.
Yeah, CCP doesn't like liberty more than I do. Oh, man. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead. We'll pontificate this on for a second. But Joe Biden was making a speech the other day about some green energy stuff and coal plants and how this oil plant, he was out there telling some bullshit story about how the exhaust and the whatever you call it that comes off of a factory like that was
the carbon and the emissions.
Yeah, it was so bad that in the wintertime, when you go to turn, when the mom turns the windshield wipers on, you had to you had to spread the oil around. The oil was spreading on the windshield, and you had to get out and clean it off.
The oil.
Yeah. And because I think this was a some kind of petroleum plant. He was going after green energy shit. It was the same day that he announced to the entire world that he had cancer, along with millions of other people.
It was just like when I was in the desert during Desert Shield, and the Saudis lit the oil wells on fire, and we had oil rain coming down on top of us. It was just like that.
Just like
it
that.
It was the same thing.
It was basically Jarhead.
I was a child, and we were in Pennsylvania, and
Scranton.
What the fuck, dude?
And the best part was he was in like Delaware.
I love it so much.
I don't understand what is.
We just let him be a lying sack of shit and no one cares. We just let him fucking lie all the time. And everyone's like, oh, it's a harmless lie. It's just a personal story to make it more relatable. Oh, isn't that good? Right? Because you trust people who lie to you all the time, right?
Yes.
Then you can trust the things when they say, no, I'm not lying now. I'm
of course
being
not.
very fucking serious. That's not a concern at all. That's not why one lie damages fucking years and years of honesty and truth. It's no concern at all. It's disgusting. Like we know they're liars already. So why do we let someone be there who is showing us they're a liar? At least fucking try and pretend. It doesn't make me feel more comfortable that you're honest about being deceptive.
Exactly.
It doesn't make me feel more comfortable at it. Just get the fuck out of here.
Yes. Now,
and everyone's like, let him go again.
Do it again.
Let him run again. All these fucking Democrats, let him go again.
If he's
transitional.
Fine. Transitional president.
He'll get COVID again, and then he'll die. It's fine. I don't see how anyone can justify voting for him. It's a disturbing thing to hear people openly question his ability to serve as president. Be like, but he's got to fucking run again, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's got to run again.
He definitely has to.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I don't understand. Like, people make all these weird kind of guesses. Like, well, yeah, they're going to... he'll get really sick or something like that, and Kamala Harris will step into the presidency, and then she'll appoint like Pete Buttigieg or something like that as vice president and stuff like this. I don't honestly know if that's how that works. I think you have to have we ever had a president openly resign from office?
Nixon
resigned. That's right.
From office.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was like
he was going to be out anyway, but he resigned from office, and then Ford took office and immediately pardoned him like within days. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just a step up. I think everyone takes one step up. I think Pelosi would become VP.
Yeah, it's like I don't think they just get to pick the next VP. I think everybody moves up.
No, I think it just one up.
Yeah, and that
batter up.
That dream of like just being able to do that because then Kamala won't run or something like that, and then Pete Buttigieg could step up or somebody like I don't think that's how any of this thing works, and it just shows.
It isn't how any of this works.
No, and this is how, and it just shows their either lack of understanding or their malicious intent to just say fuck the system. We have the power.
No, I think at this point they're all. Man, I don't have any basis for this. It's all just a nihilistic view that I have on this thing. I think they're just searching for any way that they can try and fuck the system up. Anything that we can use as a justification for something else, I'm going to go ahead and go for. And if I think that I can try it, I'm going to try it and try and justify it on the back end. And if not, then I'll fuck with it in the meantime, So I would not put it past them. I don't know exactly how that's laid out in the Constitution, but...
on the topic of the day after he announced he had cancer, he came down with COVID, right?
It was your birthday.
It was my birthday. What did I say? I was like, what I want for my birthday? Oh, man.
Yeah, I told Jordan that. And she heard me listening to the Friday shows today. And so they were talking about him having COVID. And she's like, is he going to die? And I said, do you know? I said, it happened on Colin's birthday. And he said,
all I want for Christmas is.
And then I said to her the same thing I said to you. I said, but we also talked about how fucked up it would be that the leftists would be happier that Kamala Harris was president than they were sad that he was dead. I said, and that would be fucked up to see. Even though I don't fucking like that guy at all, that would be sad to see.
It would.
For them to be like, oh, this is tragic, but also this is lit. Like that would that's fucked up.
They'd turn him into like a martyr.
So like, little difference.
Thank you, Joe
really
Biden. We'll erect a statue in your honor for ushering in the first black female president, Kamala Harris.
That's what it would say.
And then immediately they go, okay, you can't run, so we're going to pick somebody else. And
we can't have this next time around.
I'm sorry, but we got Michelle Obama in the wings here, okay? We can't. You're just terrible at this.
And isn't it so almost like scary that you can feel something because you know how impossible it would be for either Pete Buttigieg or Kamala to to genuinely win that position over Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis, it genuinely scares me for who they are gonna fucking pull the earth apart.
Yeah.
And just push them up into exaltation of like, this is the one.
Because there is
I don't
nobody
No.
I can think of like that they could go as like,
No
oh
one
yeah,
could.
the DNC is like, yeah, this is the one right here. Especially because they have all these prerequisites now that they have to meet. Their pool of people to pull from is incredibly small now.
And then, like, I don't know, at least with Joe Biden, I could say, at least he's been here for a while, so he knows how shit works, right?
He's so good. I mean, he's learned how to play the system
It's-
to enrich
that's what
himself.
yeah.
So good.
That's what I could give him when he came into office.
Mm-hmm.
At least he knows what he's doing as far as politics goes.
Yeah, until all the
That
dementia
obviously
really
doesn't-
kicked in.
Obviously, it doesn't fucking matter because nothing happened anyway, besides more money being spent. But that was the one thing that I gave him. There isn't even a person outside of this that's like, well, at least they know the system.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And we've got
That's no longer a benefit. At the time, I thought maybe this will be a good thing. It's been a long 2 years, man.
yeah. Now this is, man, we're coming 6:20.
Yep.
Let's do this one and we'll see how we feel afterwards. Let's talk about some green energy stuff,
Yes.
particularly based off of the exchange we've seen with Thomas Massey towards Pete Buttigieg.
Okay.
Regarding the transition to green energy.
Yes.
Now, I have a clip we could play it. It's like 5 minutes long, but I don't think we really want to do that. I'll put it in the show notes. How about
There you
that? So
go.
anybody can watch it. But Thomas Massey starts off. He's in some form of a committee hearing and talking about this, and he starts off by ensuring that Pete Buttigieg, the Department of Transportation head, understands that Thomas Massey himself is an off-the-grid guy. He believes heavily. He's very, very bearish, very bullish, whatever
Yeah.
the good one is, on this form of technology. He's had solar panels and electric
Bullish.
cars for like 15 years.
Yes.
He's been a believer in this technology for a long time. And he proceeds to just break down by the numbers how much extra energy would be consumed from the average household if everybody in America,
Right.
because the plan he was speaking to was their plan to essentially have every car manufactured in America after 2035 be 100% electric cars, right? And we've already seen, just due to that language, industries adopting that and really, really pushing for that. Everything from Jeep to all the major, GM and Ford and all that
Right.
stuff, on top of the one person that has revolutionized the market. They refuse to talk about Tesla. But
Can't talk about Musk.
you can't talk about Musk because he doesn't align with us, so we can't boost his company up.
Plus, now his dad fucks his sister. You just
Oh,
can't.
bud, that was a whole deal. A second child with his sister-in-law.
Jordan's the one that told me that. And I was like, I can't.
Yeah,
with
and I
this.
showed
Like,
you're like, I wonder what that dude looks like, and I showed you the picture of him.
horrifically
Whoa!
ugly. God.
Money does strange things to people. But so he starts to break down the numbers, right? And he says the equivalent of, he equated it to refrigerators first, and then he equated it to air conditionings, especially considering that's their big hot ticket item right now. As well, it's so hot because of climate change. We have to do this right now. We have to do
Right.
this right now. He said, if you have a family with 2 cars, because both parents have to work, obviously, so everybody needs to drive, so you need 2 electric vehicles that you plug in and charge every night. Pete Buttigieg was absolutely unaware of how much energy it actually takes to charge an electric car.
Because they don't fucking do shit having to do with transportation. They just gave
Yeah.
him a fucking job. And they're like, here you go. You're going
Yeah.
to be great at it.
We need you because you checked our boxes, so
Yeah.
we have to give you a cabinet
Was
position.
that you were a fucking mayor before this? Sounds good.
Yeah, South Bend, Indiana, baby.
Soldier before that? Great.
Yes.
Even better.
And you have a husband?
Yeah.
We're in.
Tell the buses where to go. Let's do it. The fuck are we doing? God.
So
go ahead.
for 2 electric vehicles to be charged every night would consume the equivalent amount of energy as 25 air conditionings per household.
Ooh, and that should be a lot of energy.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Even the most energy efficient ones today. And so that right there, you're boosting somebody's power bill at least 25 times what they're operating off of now. Now, on top of that, you have to concern yourself with When you think about it, that means roughly a 25% increase in the total amount of energy consumed by every American every single day, every household. So now the nation has a 25% increase in overall demand for energy, period. For one, he brings up the fact that our current infrastructure cannot support that. We have rolling blackouts in hot summers in hot states as it is already.
They're already shitting on Texas.
Yes. Well, yeah. And because Texas isn't a centralized, controlled
Yeah.
market, but California's the same way.
The state doesn't have their hands in Texas' power grid. What are we going to do?
Yeah. California starts fucking forest fires every year because their grid explodes. Yes.
Every year.
And they can't do anything about it.
And they even say it's PG&E's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
They acknowledge it. They're like, it's fine.
It's fine.
Just keep going.
You know, that's where the Jewish space lasers came from.
That's right.
And so Pete Buttigieg's response to this is, well, we can't get there off the grid of yesterday, but we'll need to get there with the grid of tomorrow. Oh, that's some inspirational words right there.
Enlightened people.
So we're talking about 12 years until this grid has to be completely nationwide 100% upgraded. How long did it take to build the World Trade Center after the old one?
Oh, fuck, a decade? How long did it take? Oh,
Word.
God.
It took a decade at the very least. You
people-
cannot do that. That is absolutely insane. And to operate off the assumption that these dated technologies, solar power and wind power, which are now getting fucking struck by lightning because nobody has the sense to go, this is the highest thing around, maybe we should put a fucking lightning rod on it. And then it catches on fire.
It's awesome.
These people are fucking insane.
It's so awesome.
There is zero thought behind this, and we're cutting oil back. We're selling off our fucking petroleum reserves so we won't have a goddamn...
Don't need it.
We won't have a backfall when the system collapses. Western Europe is going to be in complete collapse. They're already restarting these ancient ass fucking coal plants and shit like that because they cannot operate from where they're at. And they're going to have oil problems already this wintertime. If these people are allowed to continue down this road, people are going to die. And there's no two ways around it. If you start to limit our ability to power our homes, to fuel our vehicles, to continue, which makes the economy work, by the way, the entire system collapses.
Right.
And not in a long, drawn-out process. So I don't understand the end goal here because there's no place to land, yet we're cutting back on all of these things already. There's no safety net to land. This is either going to lead to collapse 100% or somebody's going to have to get in office and say, this is all fucking insane. We're getting back on here. Let's get some more nuclear plants going on. I still don't understand how nuclear energy isn't green energy at this point.
I don't think there is a justification for it.
They never talk about
the
it.
The only thing that they can write up to it,
Yeah.
which seems ignorant because, as we've talked about times before, all this technology that we're running now is like 1970s technology.
Yeah.
So if you make it better, then it will be better.
Yeah.
It will be better. I don't know. Like, we're better at science and just general technology and manufacturing than we were in 1970. So
what did I
don't
ask you the other
see
day?
How it could possibly be the same scenario now? Not that the danger is not there, but that the danger factor is not greatly reduced now compared to when we first built these reactors.
Yeah. So the other day I was asking you this, and I said, you know what? When you really come down to think about nuclear energy, that we have a massive, massive use of nuclear energy going on right now. And it is in our aircraft carriers and our nuclear fucking submarines. They're not nuclear submarines because they carry nukes. They do that, but they run off of a nuclear engine, right? That's some kind of nuclear fusion or fission or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
I'm not a scientist, but how many of those things do you see melting down every day?
No one concerns themselves with it.
No.
It's not a second thought even of like, oh, well, we put fucking soldiers, Navy sailors on these boats and put them under the water all of the time, and we don't worry about it, right? So if we're not concerned about their level of radiation exposure in the same vessel as the nuclear core, then what what are we really concerned about?
Yes.
You know, it seems like, if you ask me, and maybe this is conspiratorial, there's only so much money to be made in the implementation of nuclear energy, and it seems like largely it's in the construction of the facility. After that, it seems like it's a pretty low level of maintenance, and there's not a whole lot of money to be made because there's really not that much shit that goes into it besides a fuckload of water.
Yeah.
So
That's about it. And I don't.
whoever makes the uranium rods that you swap out fucking every 5 years or however long they last, because
Yeah.
they last a real long goddamn time.
Yep.
So, and it has to be. It is difficult to see it being anything other than an incentive structure based in finances. That there isn't as much money to be made by these things because the level of inherent danger is no longer excusable, as you said, because we have people in them literally under
All
the
the time.
water
For
thousands
decades
of
now.
feet, and we don't even care about it. You know,
We don't think
happy.
about it.
We pride ourselves on it because we're like, look at this fucking shit
Yeah.
that runs off of water in the water. Isn't that sick? You know, like that's crazy. You know, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
and I just think people don't think about that. If you don't know someone who's on a sub, you might not even know that they're nuclear power plants. You know, you might not even know that.
that's all that diesel.
Yeah.
No,
when
man.
you hear that someone is a nuclear technician, you're like, oh, yeah, we have nuclear bombs. Someone has to be a technician for nuclear shit. You're like, no. I make the boat go. That's the thing, is that I make sure the boat keeps going. I'm not here for the missiles. I'm here for the boat
I make
go.
the boat
Yeah,
go.
that's why I'm here. People don't know that, you know.
I make the boat
Don't-
go. That's
yeah,
my new
it
favorite
wasn't
thing.
until my neighbor Charlie made chief that I realized he was a nuke, that is what he did. Because I used to think the same thing. It's like, oh, fucking missiles, right? You just have all the missiles. And they're like, fuck no. He's like, that's stupid. So
I make the boat go.
Why would we have a nuclear bomb just in the middle of the water with a bunch of people next to it? That's stupid. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we might put one on there for a reason, but we don't just keep them on there just for fun. You know? It's like, no, he's like, we use a nuclear engine to propel the boat. It's like, that just blew my fucking mind, because you don't. First of all, it's difficult to conceptualize a submarine as it is.
Yeah.
You know, because few people ever be in spaces as confined as that and as compact as that, where people live their lives for months at a time.
It's a deal.
The whole thing is difficult to conceptualize if you don't do it yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
And you see people like Michael, my brother-in-law, who's just as tall as you are, was on a fucking boat. Like, you're telling me that you get into a metal submersible and you live in there? It's like, yeah, fucking hundreds of us. Like, it sounds made up. It sounds like a fictional thing. So it's
unless
so,
you're somebody that's already like initiated into that system.
yes, it's so easy to remove yourself from it and be like, but the oil derricks in the water, though, them things are fucking pumping liquid gold.
Yeah.
And it's your simple brain, the monkey brain aspect of it, I have nothing to do with science, so of course we burn oil, and that's how things work. Why would water? Yeah, it's people just don't.
And now I have because I've been doing some thinking on this for a while now. There was a guy I was following for a while who was, I think his name's Michael Schonenberger. He was running for governor in California and unfortunately lost, but he's big lefty progressive, but he's a huge proponent of nuclear energy and stuff like this. And listening to some of the stuff he talks about, it got me thinking. Another reason I think that the establishment would not necessarily push for that would be the simple fact that if we start to justify this beautiful clean energy known as nuclear, we have to allow other nations around the world to have the ability to do the same thing. But
right now,
along with that, along with that comes, you're a parallel step away from also nuclear weapons.
Right.
And so it's why like the Iran nuclear treaty and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's why they get our dicks hard.
Yeah. So I could see that being a thing, because if we're able to like start powering the entire nation off of a handful of modern day nuclear sites, the rest of the world gonna be real pissed off about that when we say, yeah, no, you can't do that.
Right.
Or you can't do that. We're not going to allow that. But I don't, that's the only justification I can have to something why they might just be purposely quashing that.
And it would defeat other forms of new green energy they're pumping out there. So the money that's in that is immediately washed out if nuclear becomes progressive. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
very
good.
Interesting.
It is not awesome. Oh. Anyways, yeah. I think that feels good.
Yeah, I think so.
We got about an hour in that one.
Yeah, with that, You know, I don't have a reading for today. I thought that I had one, but I don't. So it's okay. I didn't have one last week either.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to thank everybody, obviously, for being here today. You guys are fantastic. Zeke, Joseph, Bilbo, Deborah, everybody that was here. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jake Lyons, for coming on the show, for having the conversation with us. It was crazy as fuck. So thank you. And we'll probably have him back in the future to try and parse that out a little bit more and see if there's some more to it.
I think it would be good to give him some offline conversation to help build up his ability to have those conversations at that kind of level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can tell he was pretty inexperienced about that. He said this is the first time he's ever been on a podcast, and I don't want to brag too much, but we do kind of operate on certain levels. That not everybody does.
Yeah, we do be balling. That is for sure. So, yes, thank you, Zeke. Thank you again, Joseph. Everybody who's here today. I want to thank you for the millionth time at least. You've been watching us here on our YouTube, Salt of the Streets. We also have our Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, everything at Salt of the Streets. Of course, go there to the Patreon, sign up, subscribe, help us make more better content just like this, like the newsletter, the book club, the beer shows, all those things. We also have our own personal social media. I am at Salt of the Street on Twitter and at alpaca_Donovan on Instagram. Colin is a Big Bird Alfie on both of those things. You can find all of this on saltofthestreets.com. Again, like, subscribe, share this with your friends so that we can make better content for you guys and also make a fuckload of money.
Boom.
Thank you guys. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye, everybody.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week.